Thanks for joining me, as I said before. This afternoon we're going to have about an hour all up, and I hope to keep some time at the end for questions, but sometimes I go over time, so my apologies in advance if I do that. The reason that I put this presentation together was that everyone's got an incredible amount of stress right now, and this is about collecting and sharing some of the tools and techniques I've used myself that will hopefully be of value to you and your loved ones to help you manage this incredible amount of stress we're dealing with. So the intention for today is to share really practical tips and information, because everyone, you know, the saying that's going around, we're all in this together, it really feels like that. So stuff feels really heavy at the moment as well. And then at the end, for people who would like to empower themselves more with emotional mastery, I've got a special offer for you for being brave enough to come on the first call. And I also want to share that anything I'm sharing for strategies and things, we still want to make sure we're taking really good care to follow what the experts and authorities are saying as far as our strategies and procedures, because Australia is doing a great job of actually, making a difference in the spread. So anything I say, that I absolutely put that up front, that we're not going against any advice that people are giving us on how to actually live right now. For example, I'm going to talk about things like exercise. Well, it's all with the proviso that you're doing it within those guidelines. So all the work I do in Optimum Thinking, I look at 7 areas of life, and today we're going to focus just on the top 3. We're going to do a little bit of work on physical stuff that can help us with stress, this mental stuff that we need to expand our knowledge and our skills with, and the spiritual stuff. And for those of you that I've done coaching work with before, this will be some reminders as well, and hopefully some new information that we can bring on board with that. So our level of stress, that's great language, isn't it? Our level of stress our level of stress relates directly to our ability to adapt to change. So just like a chameleon, as things change in our life, we need to learn to adjust to them. Otherwise, we get very stressed when things aren't how we want them to be. Because one of the things we love to do is feel in control, and change is what can help us. It can actually make us feel out of control. So the more we can learn to adapt, the better off we'll be. So the things we can't change, we need to be able to adapt to as quickly as possible. So the first thing I wanted to do is just show you where stress, like the different levels of stress. So we all want a bit of challenge, because it's actually challenge that gives us motivation. But when we get more and more challenge, we'll go into anxiety, distress, and eventually burnout. So too much challenge feels like burnout. And with what's going on with COVID-19, that's where we're feeling a lot of the time. We're dipping down into the we can't cope, it's going to beat us kind of scenario. So we have to bring ourselves back to a balanced state. On the other side, with support, we do actually like to have support in our life. It helps us feel relaxed and comfortable. But believe it or not, when you get too much support, you actually get bored. Then you become dependent and you stay juvenile on something else. So if, for example, you're in a super comfortable government job like I was as a state school teacher, there's a point you just become very dependent on that job, and you lose your sense of who you are without that job. So I found it incredibly difficult to resign from that safe job. So it's that when we get that really big stress because we're too dependent and juvenile on something, it makes it really hard to change and cope with change. So there's a term called eustress that they use. Has anyone heard of that before? Stick your hand up if you have. Okay, it's the EUSTRESS in the middle, and that's the zone that we stay in, where we actually have enough stress in our system to actually feel motivated and inspired by what we do. And it kind of happens in a zone where it's a balance of motivation and relaxation or support that we actually feel really comfortable in, and we can achieve and grow there. So that little window, in psychology, they call it the window of tolerance. So in the window of tolerance, we actually is where we can like cope with change. So anything that changes within that zone, we're fine with. But COVID-19 has pushed us way out of our comfort zone. So all of the work we do is about expanding our window of tolerance bit by bit so we can actually achieve more in our life. Because as you can handle more stress, the bigger game you can play. So if you think about our world leaders at the moment, they're handling incredible amounts of stress. So they must have gone up through the levels of being able to cope with that. The one other thing we're going to add in this afternoon is the other thing that helps us actually handle change is to keep focused on what's inspiring to us, keep focused on our goals, keep focused on what's important. So I'm going to bring us back to that later in the call as well. So just have a look at what we can and can't control. It's good to bring this to our conscious awareness because we can actually think about things a little bit differently. at the top level of what we can't control, or of what controls everything around us, are what I call either omnipresent, universal, natural laws, or the laws of science as well. And these are the laws that are creating the constant transformation of the universe at all levels. So this is a bit you and I, as mere human beings, have no control over. It's what makes the Earth go around the sun. It's what births stars and black holes, allow, like, all of the universe implodes into them. So we can't control those laws. So some things are beyond our control. So if you look at the virus, it's actually a natural phenomenon. So we're doing our best to deal with it as human beings, but we haven't actually worked out how to stop them happening. So they're part of the universe. They're actually creating some kind of growth and some kind of transformation. The second one is animal survival laws, or the instinct laws. Because we're predominantly, well, we're fundamentally, an animal form, we have that natural instinct in us, or that animal survival instinct, and it's run by the lower mind. So no one here is just told their lungs to breathe, or their heart to beat, or their cells to divide. So it's the actual natural part of us that's the animal that's taking a lot of control over that, thank goodness. And we call it our lower mind that runs that system, but it's not less intelligent than our higher mind, it's just different. So in there we have no control, but we have a limited ability to manage it. So when it gets out of control, we can use our higher mind to master our lower mind, but it takes a lot of work. But if you're threatened enough, you can't control it. Your animal instincts just kick in. The next level of influence and control are human-made laws. So there are international laws, national, state, local, religious, organisational, etc. And these laws have an agenda of control of the masses of individuals, but for survival of the collective. And this is where we're really being affected right now, because we're being told to stay in our homes. And there's part of us don't like to be told what to do, and parts of us can really see that it's essential right now to stop the spread. So in here we have little or no control, depending on our level of influence in society. So this takes a lot of resource to change. So if you're trying to change a law at, say, a national level, you have to be really empowered in the law, or have a really big group of people that you can lead to actually make change or affect change. So it's another area that we don't have a lot of control over. Other people, so we like to think we control other people, but basically they all have a unique conscious and unconscious set of rules that govern their behaviour. And I call these the hierarchy of individual life priorities, or the HILP. And it's every individual's personal, unique agenda to try and get what they want out of life. So here we have little or no control, and this depends on the perception of authority and value we offer them. So if we're going to actually try to control someone else, they've got to believe we've got something of enough value that they will do what we want. So you can see that other people and the human-made laws are kind of interacting at the moment, because the police are out there telling people they can't sit on a park bench at the moment, for example. So it's quite extreme to what we're used to. That's why we're having so much reaction in our system. So the part we have most control, theoretically, because sometimes we lose control here too, is in our own self. And that's what we want to work on today, is like, what can we control about ourselves? So there's two parts of us, our conscious mind, which is our executive center at the front of our mind. We have our own unique set of rules, beliefs, what we think is right and wrong. It's where our thoughts, our actions, and we keep our goals. But then we also, at an unconscious level of our mind, we have rules and beliefs that are running that we're not actually consciously thinking of in any one moment. And then we have our unique agenda, our hierarchy of individual life priorities, with our goals and mission attached to it, and all of the unconscious thoughts, actions, and habits, and our reactions from our past programming. They're all happening at that unconscious level. So we have this constant thing going on where we're looking at what are we consciously thinking of compared to what's unconsciously going on for us. And this is where we can help ourselves get a little bit more conscious control. So we think of like the higher mind, or the executive self, that front bit of the brain. That's the part that embraces both challenge and support to achieve what it wants out of life. That's the goal setting part of us that strategizes, etc. But that little animal self, it actually is the lower mind. It lives in the illusion that a one-sided world is possible, and that we can get pleasure without pain. So the rub here is the higher mind I've represented in this diagram is where we've got our hands on our steering wheel and we feel really in control. Consciously, we only do that about 5% of our life. 95% of the time, roughly, we are living just in as a little robot doing the do, or we're living in that one-sided perception that, oh, everything should be nice, everything should be easy. So we're trying to think we can have a one-sided life, which is futile. In today's environment, we look more like this lion more often, okay? And the most important thing for us to realize as we look at the physical stuff going on for us is that feeling safe is our number one priority. How many people here have actually felt kind of really fearful, unsafe in the last month in particular, since it's really cranked up? Yeah, I certainly have multiple times as well. So the lower mind is our animal instinct. So when it gets overwhelmed by all the scary stuff we see on the news, because we need to watch the news to know what we're meant to be doing so we can follow the laws and the rules, but at the same time we get fearful because we see how many people have passed away, how many people are sick, all the control. So we're seeing how everyone else is controlling us, so we get a sense of loss of control. So when that gets really strong inside us, we have this sense that we're losing our sense of self. Also, as an animal, we're also fearful for the species because this virus has the potential to wipe out a large percentage of our species. So the animal instinct in us has that agenda of survival. So if we can fight something, we'll stand up and fight it. So there's people at the moment who are really in that state, like I think of the health workers on the front, the truck drivers trying to get people fed by shipping food all around the nation. So there's a high level of fight that's out there. There's other people just want to run away because they can't beat this virus. So there's people like trying to go and hide places all over the planet and get away from everyone and everything. There's people who just feel frozen and don't know what to do. And then there's people who just go flop. So they just give up because they can't beat it. They can't run away from it. They don't know what else to do. So they're just going to like keel over for a while. I don't know about you, but I think I've been in all of those states off and on for the last 4 to 6 weeks as it's all cranked up, right? So our natural animal instinct is to go there. So it's normal for us to do that. But if we stay stuck there, what happens is the body starts to run the mind unless you use your higher mind, your executive center, to calm your system and take control. So this first part of the presentation is how do we use our higher mind to actually calm that poor little scared or angry or whatever, frustrated or given up animal in us. So the neuroception of safety must be felt before anyone can think rationally and be productive. So neuroception means we have to have that perception in our mind that we feel safe. So it's a two thing. It's in our mind and it's in our body. What we tend to do when we get scared is we look externally for safety. So if you think about it, when you're a little kid and you felt scared, you'd run to mummy and daddy. So we have that kind of programmed into us at that logical level. But the reality is our sense of safety is an internal feeling, so we can control it. So we can calm down the scared animal. What happens when we get into those really high levels of stress is the frequencies in our system, because we're all made of energy and we all operate at different frequencies within different parts of our brain, within different parts of our heart, within different parts of our gut. So when we get out of coherence, those frequencies get all scrambled, is when we get dis-ease. So fear, anger, any strong emotion will actually send us into this scrambled frequency. It's just like, you know, when you're trying to tune a radio and you just get close to the station, but it's all scrambled. It's like, that's what it feels like inside us. So we have to go through processes that entrain our physical body to a new mind and get our system back into coherence, where all of the frequencies in our system come back online and regulate together. That's the space we get healing. And that's the space of gratitude. So this little diagram is just taken from Joe Dispenza's book, You Are the Placebo, which is a great book with evidence-based stuff on how you can heal yourself through your mind. So it's another great resource to go to. Throughout this presentation, I've tried to acknowledge where the information's come from. So I don't consider this as my work. My goal is to help find all the resources I can and give you the simple ones that seem to work best for me. So if we have a look at this here, this comes from Heart Math on the left-hand side. They've dedicated their careers to actually looking at getting that cohesion into the heart and regulate the frequency in your heart. So the top diagram, you can see the stress and the rhythm pattern of frustration, anxiety. Your heart rate's all over the place. And then when you get back into appreciation and self-care and connected to other people, you go back into that nice rhythm. That's where we want to get our heart and our brain. So if our heart's out of regulation, so does our brain get out of regulation, and the other way around. If we make a lot of like really scary meanings in our mind, then we'll send our system out of whack as well. So how do we regulate internally? The first thing is that we want to calm the animal down in you, like the animal self that's feeling all out of the place. So the first thing is to remind yourself that your bodies are designed to respond. So normalize it. We are meant to feel fear because that's what keeps us alive, right? So it's going to come up. So as soon as we realize every single person on the planet goes through this, we're not different to anyone else, we are going to have to learn to cope with it. Secondly, sometimes the feeling of like fear or whatever's coming up for us is ours, and other times people project their energy to set you up to feel like they feel. So sometimes it's your energy, but sometimes it's other people's. And because an energy field is all around us, when we come close to someone else, our energy fields intersect. That's one of the reasons we're having real trouble with social distancing. Well, most people have trouble with social distancing. Some people are glad to get people away from them, okay? But that 1.5 meters is enough that we're not actually really intersecting in each other's energy fields anymore. So I've noticed, like when I visit my mother, we can't get close. It feels really weird because my mum's 82 and she's got some health issues. So it's like we'll go and visit her, but we keep our distance the whole time, and that doesn't feel natural. Because normally we get into each other's energy field so we can actually feel like other people are feeling, and that's one of our ways of connecting. So we've got that kind of disconnect as well. But know too that if someone's really fearful and that energy's there, you want to actually acknowledge that it's not yours. But one of the most powerful things you can do is when you feel that other person feeling like that, is actually name it to tame it. So think about that animal in you, and what we're doing is naming that fear to tame it. So we say something really a little bit abstract, like this feels like a lot, this feels really heavy, this feels hard, whatever it is, just to acknowledge that you're acknowledging how the other person's feeling. When we feel felt, it's really powerful. They get us, and somehow just that acknowledgement of the frequency, and I don't know the full science behind it, but when those waves meet, your calmer wave can actually help them calm down. So you're actually doing them a service by noticing how they feel, keeping yourself regulated so you can help them calm down. And the way we regulate ourselves is to breathe deeply and slowly, really right down to your belly, like a proper belly breath, and you focus on your breath. So when there's someone coming and they're really fearful, or we just go, wow, this feels like a lot. Let's take a breath and breathe that together. Like, let's just take a few breaths. And the extra thing that Lisa Dion from Synergetic Play Therapy has shared with me and taught me, because I did a great course with her in America last year, is if you also move, rock, sway, somehow move at the same time as you're breathing when it feels overload, you start to feel connected with yourself again, and you start to bring your system back online. So whether if you're sitting at a table, even just moving your legs up and down, if you can actually stand up, even just sway, just ask your body which way it wants to move. Your body has an intelligence, and it will want to do stuff when it feels stuck. So some bodies just might want to run, and it's the run that helps. Other people might just want to have a bath. Someone might want to rock. So rocking is really good. I'm not sure if you've seen little kids when they get upset, they'll like sit on the floor, grab their knees up around their chest, and they'll rock backwards and forwards, because there's a point at the base of their spine that stimulates that spinal fluid and brings it up into the brain, and they will feel better. So the number one thing we want to do is help ourselves feel safe. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and feel fearful, it's about breathing, like get your breath back in line. So this is one of many different ways of looking at breathing. But if you know the general logic behind it, you'll be able to use it in different ways. So one way when you're feeling like really tense or stressed is to actually count your breaths, because the counting takes you out of your head, out of your mind, into just breathing and focusing on your breath. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 2 seconds, because that actually helps more oxygen get to your brain, and then exhale for a long exhale for like 7 seconds. So that's one way to do it. And repeat that cycle at least 5 to 7 times, or as long as it takes, because in this really super stressy time, it might take you 5 minutes to get yourself back online. So the long exhale lowers your heart rates and brings you back into coherence. Your brain feels like things will be all right, and you feel safe again. So you've tuned your body, your animal form back in. This breathing technique is really useful to bring your logical and creative centers back online. So if you're feeling scattered, like you're trying to work but you just feel really scattered, just take 5 minutes and breathe. right? And that will actually bring you back into a balance and your brain back online. It's the long inhales and short exhales that increases oxygen in your system and see if I can say that again, and energizes you. Okay, so when we breathe in for a long way and go whoo, and breathe out quickly, the oxygen builds up in your system and you'll be able to actually get more energy. So if you're feeling like you've gone into flop, okay, train yourself to do the opposite and breathe in long and then short exhales. Do that for a few minutes and you'll feel you get the oxygen back in the system and get you moving. So holding your breath sends more oxygen to your brain to help it function better. So when I say that, I don't mean so much that you pass out. Just hold your breath for a few seconds and then let it out. We'll push the oxygen right up into your brain. So here I'd reference Wim Hof's work, because he's done an amazing amount of work on the breath, and he's used university students to study it, and he's also tested some of his work with like NASA equipment. So I've got a couple of YouTube links here. I'm going to send an email out to everyone who's on the call with these in it, so you can click on the links live. So don't worry about trying to copy down such big scrambled links. And it's just really this, so you can actually see the theory behind his work and then actually the exercises that he does. I've gone to his official sites because you'll see the guy who invented it all, but there are lots of teachers of his breathing techniques worldwide now. So if you don't yet have a really good breath work technique, I suggest explore his work and explore some others and find the one that works for you, because it's really about what works for you. Other things that I think are really important with your body is actually getting stuck emotion out of the body. So there's a yoga called yin yoga at the gym I go to when I'm allowed to. It's called restorative yoga. So it's where you actually hold yoga poses, but you hold them for a really long time and it releases tension in the joints and releases muscles. So in yin yoga, people report that they quite often might get teary because they're actually releasing an old stuck emotion. So you need some sort of form of exercise and stretching that will do that for you. This guy here, Dr. David Berceli, he actually pioneered a technique that's called trauma release exercise, TRE. I actually went and trained with did a session on how to do it, with one of his trainers in Brisbane. And I've got the YouTube here for you to watch for his official stuff as well. And the second one is a young woman who's actually interviewing someone else and teaching them how to do it, because they're really entertaining more than anything. I'll put them on. But basically what you do in this process is you purposely hold tension in your muscles with some particular exercises so that it builds up and you fatigue those muscles. And then you lie on your back like this, and the people they open like from their knees out. And then what happens is the legs just start to quiver and shake. And what that is if you've ever seen a dog get really scared, have you ever noticed like dogs shake and quiver? So the animal body is designed to do that. That's what we're meant to do. We're meant to shake, we're meant to cry, because they're things that bring our system back online. So if you've ever had a really big cry, you feel better at it at the end, don't you? Better after it. So the same with this one, it's actually shaking and quivering on purpose, and it gets all of the tension out of particularly your hips, your knees and your lower body and your spine, and actually brings you back into balance and cohesion as well. So it takes it's about a 20-minute cycle when you do it, but you can do it for longer. So they're getting really good results with PTSD type people as well, that have got trauma in their body, but they don't know how to process it mentally. So at least getting it out of your system will bring your brain back online too. Here's some other ones that I think are worth exploring. Earthing, where we're actually looking at the fact that if we stay in touch with the ground, I know Carly said she's been getting good value by going and sitting out on the grass lately to de-stress. So that can be really valuable as well. So please look that up. Laughter therapy. If you have a good laugh, have you noticed how much better you feel as well? So Patch Adams was a doctor that was very famous for the work he did, particularly with children in hospital, getting them to laugh so that they actually felt a lot better as well. And it's believed that it reduces anxiety and stress, renders pain manageable, and bolsters the immune system. So right now it's a virus that's actually kind of our biggest challenge. Anything that can anything that can boost the immune system is going to help us. And finally, art, craft and music. and dance, anything that's going to get you into movement, that will actually de-stress you. The art, very much creativity. So you're focusing your mind somewhere else than on the problem. You're going to be able to bring your body back into alignment. And I really recommend you put your favorite music on that reminds you of a good time as well, because that will actually get you moving more quickly, rather than just randomly turning the radio on. Select your music with care, and select music that's got positive messages in it. Don't program yourself with heavy music that's going to have negative stuff in it, because that's going to affect you at a physical level as well. My friend and I actually did several hours of artwork on Saturday afternoon, and it just completely shifted my mood as well to something that felt really good and creative. So the more creative and online we keep our mind, the easier we'll be able to work our way through what we need to do to get out the other side of the challenging times from coronavirus. Another guy whose work I've studied in quite a bit of depth is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Really like his work. He's focused on meditation, but what I love about the meditation work he does is he's got heaps of scientific proof behind it. I'm a bit of a show me and prove it to me person before I'll actually believe in it. I've tried a lot of meditation processes over the years and absolutely found they were beneficial in the moment. Joe's is the only work that I've really stuck with for a long period of time. This is about my 3rd year of studying his work and using his meditations, because he's proved stuff to me, and he has meditation for all different types of things. So with Joe's work, one of the things that they can do now is actually use a thing called an electrophotonic imaging machine, and you can actually measure someone's energy, so in that energy field around them. So if you have a look on the left here, whoops, push the button, sorry. If you have a look on the left here, you can see that energy field has quite broken and it's got gaps in it and everything. Then after meditation, it's much more complete. There's only a little bit of a gap there. So you will actually get a surge of energy through your system when you meditate. You'll actually feel more balanced, but also more energized. And this one here, I'm just putting a couple of bits of evidence up to hopefully give you the incentive to maybe check out some of this in more depth. This is changes in traumatic brain injury after meditation. So this is a head looking down. You can see like the ears on each side of the head and a little nose out the front. And then this is actually obviously got one of those caps on which measures all the different parts of the brain. And you can see that the blue is actually where there's very little energy in the brain. So this is like slices through the brain where you're looking at the energy level in different parts of the brain or different layers of the brain. So on the left is before meditation, and red is where there's energy. So on the right, did it again, sorry. On the right here is after meditation. So you can see that the low energy has very much lessened, decreased quite a lot, and there's some red, some high energy stuff coming into the brain. So even people with brain injuries, Dispenza and his team are getting some really good results with. People are healing from all sorts of diseases with just meditation, but incredibly focused meditation over a sustained period. So it's not like, oh, I'll meditate this week and then I'll be cured of cancer. It's nothing like that. It's actually using the mind to actually reprogram the body into a new set of beliefs about itself. And so it's actually about creating who you want to become. So that's another really powerful thing to explore. I won't go into this area in a lot of detail, but I just wanted to share there's so many different now ways of like training the brain using things like binaural beats and sound therapy so that they can actually try to help people get in particular brain waves. So there's different types of brain waves that we have in our brain for different behaviors or different activities, I should say. So when we're in a deep sleep, we're in what they call delta. Then theta is for meditation, and like the REM sleep where we're sort of half awake, half asleep, but we're processing a lot of stuff. Deep relaxation in alpha. Our awake and alert is actually beta. Gamma is high level cognition and REM sleep as well. And then extraordinary consciousness and spiritual development where we actually kind of leave our body. They call gamma or hyper gamma. And that's kind of off the scale stuff where we actually go and have altered states experiences. Most of the research in brain training that I've done over the years, they're saying that it's high alpha, low beta is actually a really great space to be in when you want to be really creative. And there's a lot of biofeedback training mechanisms that help you train your brain to know how to get into that state. So when you're feeling out of control and hyper, we just want to bring ourselves back into alpha. or theta if you need to really calm down. And sleep is the best meditation you can have because your system calms itself and regulates itself, but you need to get yourself in a calm enough state to be able to get to sleep. Binaural beats is about putting a beat in a different tone in each ear, and then because it's alternating between your ears, it eventually brings your brain back into balance. So they have all different theories on that one as well. So I just wanted to introduce it so you could have a look at it for yourself. So while we're still on physical, kind of stating the obvious, but just want to make a couple of points in particular. You need to support your immune system, and it's unique to you. So you need to educate yourself. What does your body need to tune up your immune system? So for example, like zinc, vitamin C, etc. What do you need to do? Please educate yourself around that. The obvious things is to be drinking a lot of water, because water actually will clean out your system, get toxins out of your system. Fresh air, sunshine. Don Tolman, when I studied his work, he said that from his research, if you're feeling depressed, you've got a depressed state of mind, walk for 30 minutes early morning and just before dusk, so sunrise, sunset, and do that for a week, and you won't be able to feel depressed. It actually will get your system back online. Tame your animal impulse that's attracted to addictive substances like drugs, alcohol, sugar, nicotine, caffeine. They create a high then a low. So we're already having enough emotional swings from what we see on the news or read on the paper. So this is about like keeping control of what you're putting in your mouth, because if you're putting too much sugar in, you're going to have highs and lows. If you're putting too much alcohol in, you're going to have highs and lows to deal with. Avoid overeating, because if you overeat, you're going to overload your system. You'll feel really low and sluggish. So then you're going to not have energy, and you'll be blaming coronavirus for you just not being able to work, but you've actually really put too much into your system. Stop eating by 7 p.m. because food takes a minimum of 2 hours to digest, and they suggest that pork, for example, I think takes up to 24 hours to digest and go right through your system. So certain foods take a lot longer than others. And digestion stops around 9 o'clock at night. So if you're eating at 8 o'clock, whatever's left in your belly at 9 o'clock is going to stay there till the morning when your digestion kicks in again. So don't expect to feel good the next morning if you've actually eaten a whole lot of heavy food late in the evening. And the final tip is go to sleep early, because it's between 9 p.m. and midnight is when you get the highest quality of and rest and recovery. So if you're staying up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you're missing out on the best time to actually recover. So they're just a set of general tips, probably to remind most of you what to do, but just to sort of say, well, what am I doing? What am I not doing? What could I do better to look after your physical body? So if you're not nurturing your physical body right now, you're way less able to actually handle the mental side of things. So we're moving on now to mental. Why learn something like Optimum Thinking, which is, I'll go into a little more detail so you understand it more. It's because the person with the most thinking and behavioural flexibility controls the game. So we need to be able to do emotional mastery to enable the executive centre in your brain to stay online when you're facing high levels of challenge. So practicing the thinking skills when the challenges aren't there is how we set ourselves up for when they do come on. So it's a bit like sport. You're going to do your training, but so that you're ready for when the game is happening. So I just wanted to remind people of what emotions are. This is a super simple model that I've developed based on the theory. So apologies to all the doctors and medical experts out there for how I do it, but my high school teacher background, I just want to keep it really simple. Basically, to create an emotion in our system, we first of all have to have sensory input. So we've got to witness something, we've got to see it and perceive it. And when we perceive it, we create a meaning about it. So we interpret what's going on and we make it mean something either positive or negative, good or bad. So we create it straight away, put it on one side of the equation based on whether we like what's happening or not, whether it's matching what we want whether it's matching what we think should be happening in the world. Then once we do that, we create chemicals and send electrical signals to muscles. So in that same moment we've made that meaning, it's virtually instant. A little chemist in our brain is actually saying, these are the chemicals that make you feel bad because you've judged that as bad. And here's the electrical signals to tighten up your muscles so you're sure that was a bad thing. So those meanings you make, then that little chemist makes sure that they affect every single cell in your body. So a feeling is actually your frequency changing, because the cells in your body have the chemicals affecting them and changing their frequency, changing their vibration. So the reason I labour that is that we're basically all meaning-making machines. We've all got this little chemist in our head, and the meanings we make about what's going on gives the little chemist the script for dealing out either the positive or negative drugs into our system. So we use our meanings to make our emotions. So it's our meanings we want to take control of. No one can make you feel anything. So when I was a teacher, I became a decent teacher, or half decent teacher anyway, when I learned that I can't teach anyone anything, I can't learn you. Same thing applies here. I can't make you feel anything, nor can anyone else. So it's a double-edged sword. Once you realize no one can make you feel anything, you're now in control of your feelings. Now what we want are the resources to be able to question what's going on so we can change our feelings. I'm sure you've all watched a movie, and in the blink of an eye, you go from feeling sad to having comic relief and having a laugh about something. Okay, so it's the same thing. You have the ability because you can change your thinking. So I like this quote because it really kind of drove it home for me. So negative emotions hurt you. So every time you hate someone else, as you release chemicals from your brain to your body, you truly hate yourself, because you're the one creating those chemicals in your mind, and they're flooding your system. You're actually causing all of the chemicals that are going to be hurtful and acid forming in your system and run your own system down. So the faster we can take control of a negative meaning we've made and switch it around and rebalance it, the faster we'll get our system back online and back into a healthy state. So this is a direct relationship between the mind-body connection and wellness. Because if we've got old stuff running our mind, that this is terrible, that's horrible, blah, blah, and we keep replaying that, the interesting part is that our brain can't tell the difference between a memory and something happening in the moment. So if we keep playing over how terrible that person was who bullied us or picked on us or whatever, and we keep playing it over and over, we're creating those negative chemicals in our system over and over and creating dis-ease in our system. The person we're making it about hasn't got a clue we're doing it. So we're making ourselves unwell. So what happens when we do that and we catastrophize over and over in our mind, our cortisol levels go through the roof. That affects our immune functions. And right now we all need our immune functions online as best we can. Like, we really want them topped up. It affects our mood and our sleep, which means we're not going to rest and recover as well. So we'll have an increase of panic attacks, anxiety, etc. We'll become more hormone resistant. Blood sugars goes all over the place, more likely to have diabetes or thyroid resistant. And it can affect your reproductive functions as well. So it'll increase impotence and infertility and miscarriages and decrease ovulation and sperm production. Because if you're a train wreck, you're not as likely to have another child, like have a baby, because the body isn't ready for it. So it's not going to accept you falling pregnant as easily. And I mean that for both men and women, because the boys have to be there too. Okay. So if we think about this as those frequencies that go through our system, and we think about them as like the ups and downs of life, negative thinking being down the bottom here and super negative thinking, we actually create nightmares in our mind and resentments. And when we really keep playing them over and over, we get stuck in emotional reaction, and we get stuck in an imagined terrible past or horrific imagined future. So that's not going to serve us. That's just going to run our system down. On the other side, the interesting part is positive thinking's up the top, and we've been trained to think positive thinking is a good thing, but it's actually a double-edged sword too, because if you do too much positive thinking, you actually get stuck in fantasy and infatuation. So you're stuck in another emotional reaction about, wasn't it wonderful when in the past you thought the past was better than today, or won't it be wonderful when in the future? So in both the stuck in the positive or the negative, you're stuck in the past or the future. So you're actually not present. You're not actually in a space where you're being proactive and taking control. So the optimum thinking zone is this zone in the middle, which is where we balance our perception and we get clear on what we're trying to achieve, and then we get into inspired action. That's how we stay present and we stay grateful for our day-to-day activity. We wake up in the morning and go, I'm grateful to be alive. What can I achieve today to move towards helping people and achieving my mission? So in that state, we can actually embrace both challenge and support. And I've represented that here with a football team because we've got the player whose eye is on the ball and the goal, and we've got the opposition challenging him and his team supporting him as he needs it. Because if we didn't have challenge in our life, we would get really bored. We need it. It's actually what helps us grow. I mentioned right in the beginning that the laws of the universe are things we can't control. But what Dr. John Demartini's done with this part of the work of his I use is he's actually taken those laws and applied them to human behavior. And it's the only stuff I've found anywhere on the planet that it can actually equilibrate emotion right to the point where you don't need to rethink about old stuff or future imagined terrible things. So what you do here is the main one we use, I've only got time today to introduce the main one, it's called the law of duality. Whatever you perceive as negative, so whether it's an event or whatever, you've got to look for the benefits. I don't want you to be a positive thinker here, that's wrong. We optimize it, we don't become an optimist. So we optimize it by going, look at the benefits and stack up all the benefits of that thing happening until there's equal benefits as drawbacks. When we get that point, and it's a mathematical equation, it actually balances mathematically, at that point, you get into gratitude, gratitude for being alive, gratitude for what's going on. At that point, you get coherence of mind and body. And you'll really feel grateful, little tear of inspiration will come in, and you'll feel whole. You'll feel like you're actually meant to be here and that you're on mission. So the power of gratitude creates a chemical reaction in our system that eases inflammation and boosts our immune system. So again, we're looking to boost our immune system any way we can. That helps prevent chronic illness. It boosts your mental health and well-being, and it can be learned and practiced anytime. You need presence of mind to do it though. So that's why I focus first in the talk on making sure you can calm your system down, your physical system, your little animal self. And then once you've got that done, applying the optimum thinking skills can actually help you stay in a balanced state and to not have to keep revisiting things. So that allows us also, gratitude, to access our intuition and create in a state of flow. So I've got an article on the website about gratitude. So if you want the scientific references for this stuff, there's an article with those in it. And again, I'll send those out on the email for you. Just the power of gratitude. One of my clients' daughter is in prison at the moment. And that's a pretty big challenge. She has 2 young children. So she can't see her children very often, and it's just completely against everything she liked. But she did some coaching with me a couple of years ago, and so she said to me, she actually sent this to her mum and said, make sure you share it with Helen. So I said, I'll share it, but I won't tell anyone who you are, obviously. Okay, so she's done 5 pages of gratitudes, and just the fact that she can get to that and actually not be so resentful of being in prison means she'll be a lot healthier. And it's interesting too, because like her psoriasis on her head is almost gone, and she's had that for 3 years. So once she gets into state of gratitude, your system balances and all sorts of physical changes happen as well. So I like number 6, most likely won't catch coronavirus because she's trapped in walls. So she's got one benefit over most of us. And I also like the fact she's more street smart, like learning the lingo and stuff. She can study inside. She's got plenty of time to do exercise. Now, you've got to remember, this doesn't make prison a great place to be. And in page 2, she says, don't worry, Mum, I'm never coming back. But it's actually about, you've got to realise she's balancing this against being a really high achiever in her business and also missing her children. So, like, it's huge. She had to do pages and pages before she got into balance. So the interesting part with the law of duality is that when we see challenges and we're actually feeling depressed or whatever, the actual law of duality shows that both sides are equal in exactly the same split second. So when you think about a glass half empty and a glass half full, we think about pessimist and optimist. But in fact, what's going on here is in exactly the same moment, you're making the choice about which side to look at. The work we do in Optimum Thinking helps you look at the other side. You're not looking until you can perceive them as exactly equal. And then like a mathematical equilibration happens in your mind, and it just balances. And you get into gratitude, you get into wellness, you get into your immune system being repaired and supported. Just this is really quick. Obviously, I don't have time to take you through all of it, but what we do is we have to get really clear on what the meaning is you're making in your mind that's creating that negative charge. So who did what to whom specifically? and the recipient can be you or someone else, like the person it was done to. And we make sure that we were in it and that we're charged up about it. So we're still angry, fearful, whatever. Once we know really clearly what the thing is, then we do what I call the pre-flight checklist. Can't say that very well, have to get a better way to say it. We've got to check you're really in it. You haven't got unrealistic expectations. The relationship to your hierarchy of individual life priorities, so your perceived care factor about what happened, and checking in the thing that you're getting angry about, can they actually do what you're expecting they could have done? And then investigating the laws and the rules controlling the game, the ones that I put up earlier. Once we've kind of done that pre-flight checklist, we get clear again on the memory and we go in and we go, so we think this was a terrible thing or a negative thing, but what were actually the benefits to the recipient and you? So we're going to the half of the glass that we were ignoring and we're looking at how it was actually the opposite. Then we go through and go, so if the opposite happened, well, that would have been good because they didn't do that negative thing. We then go, well, how would that have been a drawback to you? So we're flipping the mind around to find both sides. And the third one is, in the moment they were doing that perceived terrible thing to me or negative thing to me, who was doing the opposite to me? Right? And as we do that, we're spinning in our mind to get a real balance. Okay, this is adapted from the DiMartini method, which I'm trained in. I've been doing John's work for about 11 years now. And it's just so powerful when you do it. It's hard to understand because it sounds simple, but when you dig in and you get the layers, you'll find that it shifts your thinking. Then the last thing we do is we think that person now was, say, a bully, for example. We go and go, well, what's the opposite of a bully? And where and when have we seen that same person do the opposite to the same person? And we have a look at breaking labels. This is the one that's really important for your immune system, because if you label someone as a terrible person, because we all love to be right, we just scan for all the information to prove ourselves right, and we just make sure that's a terrible person in our mind over and over and over and over. Does that make sense? So now we're polarizing our thinking about that person, and it's not true. They're just a human being with a set of priorities they're chasing. They're not a terrible person. Other people think they're wonderful. Right? So everyone's got both sides. So as we balance that, we balance our one-sided perceptions and we bring our own system back online and we improve our own immune system and our own well-being. So that's just a little touch on it to give you an idea of what kinds of work we'd be doing. To touch on the spiritual, with the Optimum Life mission, every single one of us has got a mission on the planet. So to achieve wellness and perform at our best, we need to feel safe, we've covered that, feel in control and perceive we're getting what we want out of life. But if we don't take the time to plan what we want out of life, we're never going to know whether we got it, so we won't feel certain about anything. So the more we plan it and then tick it off as we achieve it, the better off we are. So during uncertain times like this, if you can't do your highest, most inspiring activity, work on your next highest, most inspiring activity. So in the Optimum Life Journal, I've got, on the website, we've got a video on how to use it and why gratitude and intention are so important. So I've covered gratitude, but in intention, you need to set what you want to do and achieve it to actually feel like yourself. I'll say that again. When you set what you want to do and achieve it, you praise yourself, you have self-esteem, and you feel like yourself. So in these really uncertain times, we want to do everything we can to stay feeling grounded, centered, and like ourselves. So on the website also, there's a free download of a goal achieving ebook that I wrote. So I've collected information about goal achieving over the last probably 35, 40 years and compiled the best bits of it from things like NLP and a whole range of other areas that are like life planner type things as well. I'd just invite you to download it. There's a section to set out your goals. You can also do your goals in the journal if you'd rather, whichever you think better, or wherever you're doing them. I don't care if they're on a piece of paper. I just want to give you the advice to make sure you've got your goals and then you're setting tick off to-do lists, particularly if you're in a challenging space where you can't do your normal work. You want to be setting goals about how you're setting yourself up for when you can get back to work. And then when all of those are laid out, what can you do now to set yourself up in other areas of your life for when you get back to work? So Optimum Thinking Foundation Level webinar series, I usually do these in person, but we've had to go online with them. It combines elements of neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming, philosophy, psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, universal laws, conflict resolution, mediation, mathematics, and science. So I've just like picked all these concepts and presenting powerful concepts in simple, easy to learn formats, because the teacher in me wants you to be able to do it for yourself. I'd also like to acknowledge up front some of the main people whose work I've studied over the last few decades, predominantly John's work, Dr. Michael Hall, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, etc., because this is just a compilation of a whole lot of other people's work, and to acknowledge all of the people who they've studied in order to compile their work, because it's, you know, pretty much we're as smart as the sum of us. So Optimum Thinking provides an empowering new paradigm that has omnipresent universal, try that again, an empowering new paradigm that has omnipresent universal laws at its core, practical strategies and questioning processes that you can return to again and again to keep yourself in conscious and inspired action, meaningful relationships through new communication and negotiation skills, permanent relief from thoughts that haunt you, distract your mind and hold you back, and the tools to accelerate your path to live your optimum life and leave yourself feeling grateful and fulfilled. So the special offer for you guys is that I'm doing level 1, the foundation level, as interactive classinars or webinars. I'm limiting them to 8 people so we can have quality conversations. I've got one option outside work hours and one option's in the work week. This is all on the website. We'll send you the links too, so don't worry that you need to process it all. It's just one Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and the other one's Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday. The full price to the general public is $5.95, but we want to offer it to you for a total of $2.97, so $2.70 plus GST. You'll get a discount code. So perhaps if it doesn't feel right for you, you might know a friend or family member who's interested in improving their wellness, performance and relationships, and it would be invoiced as professional development. So if you're a business person, then that would be in your professional development budget. So I'd like to pause for a minute and just check in with Carly whether we've got any questions, or if you've got any questions, if you'd like to actually put your microphone on, please feel free to do that.
We haven't had any questions as of yet. My question is still, who is MPSST 1320? I've made a list of everyone attending.
Person at the bottom.
I've got nothing.
Let's just hope it's not one of those Zoom bombers who's going to put porn everywhere for us.
I mean, we just don't know. I'm still not getting a response, so I don't know. They want to remain mysterious.
Mysterious and anonymous, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like more information on?
Just with exercise, Helen, I know that swimming has been a wonderful release, I suppose, and you know, mentioned about breathing. Breathing does really play heavily in swimming, and you know, I can't go to the pool, I can't go to the beach, and so the only thing I can do is bike ride. It's not the same, but swimming tends to really energize the body and realigns everything. But yeah, it's really a problem because they've closed swimming pools and gyms down. It's having an effect.
Yeah, I was working with a client this morning who had the same concern, and my mother loves to swim too, so I understand it, because you get the weightlessness of your body sort of thing, and you're focusing more on, if you think about it, like what do you get out of swimming, Nigel? What is it that you get most?
Well, it's being in an equilibrium sort of a state, like you're being in like you're floating, and it's good for your mind, it's good for your muscles. You know, when you hop out of the pool, it's like as if your whole body is just ready to spring into action. It just re-energizes it. Yeah, I do get a lot of benefit from swimming.
Cool. So a couple of things that you want to break down is it's kind of a meditative state to swim.
Yeah.
So like while you're going up the aisle and up the lane and you've got the little ropes, you know where you're going, you kind of go into a semi-trance kind of state, like quite meditative, and then all you've got to do is remember to turn at the end. Whereas maybe on a bike ride, you've actually got to concentrate more.
Yeah.
So you may not be getting the amount of meditation that you need, would be one thing. So you might want to try a couple of meditation audios. Like there's some apps out there that are free. You can just download and do like 20 minutes and try different ones until you see one. So it could be that you might want to do a little more of, but also just the actual oxygen. So I'd really recommend you have a look at Wim Hof stuff. he has a process where you breathe 30 times and then you hold your breath, and it's actually the oxygen going to your brain that stimulates your energy, and then you jump into a cold shower.
Oh, okay,
So
right.
it's like it like stimulates you, like you would feel really woken up, like swimming does for you.
Yeah.
So I'd encourage you to use, hey Kate, I'd encourage you to use, have a good look at his work. So what that deep breathing that you're getting is different because your arms are going over in swimming compared to push, but you're locking your shoulders up.
Yeah, yeah.
So just think about like how swimming opens your chest up. So bike riding is never going to do that for you. So if that's what you need, is that expansion of your chest, you want that deep breathing repeatedly. So something like Wim Hof, like the bike ride for symmetry, balancing yourself, but then that deep breathing could help expand your chest and give you that sense of oxygen to your brain and body.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks for that.
Is that helpful? Yeah, cool. Anyone else got a question? Well, you're an easy crowd, aren't you? Just if anyone would like to work with me, just so you know how I operate, I do individual coaching programs. Also work sometimes with families and couples. It just depends on the family. There's usually some people who like the work and some people who hate it, like everything in life. I also do team workshops and public workshops. So I've had to take them online, obviously. So I work either phone or online, but face-to-face in organisations or privately as well. So if you'd like any more information about what I do, just email me to book a conversation, no obligation, to see if I can be of any service. Okay. Any question about the program, the online program? Happy to answer those too. As I said, it'll only be 8 people. Want to keep them nice and small. If anyone needs a payment plan in this time, feel free to contact us about that too. We fully understand that could be an issue.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Thanks, Helen.
Yep. Let me stop share so we're all back here. So any other questions or anything? Okay, thanks Boo and Nick. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you for the feedback. And to Jen.
Thank you, that was great.
Cool, good to see you. Kate, where are you now?
I was at Middle Park State School, so I got the email from Anne. So I thought, great, I'll hop on. But this is the first time I've ever used Zoom, so that's why I wasn't.
Oh, you were the mystery woman, were you?
I was, yeah. So basically, I kind of quickly, as I was coming in right at the beginning, I thought, right, quick, download Zoom, and off we go. So I didn't want to touch anything while you were speaking because I thought I might abort the whole thing.
Lose it, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great that one of your team came on too. Have you got any questions about any of what I covered?
No. Obviously, some of it you did when you came to do the workshops, but there were lots of other things, and I was scribbling down lots of information, which I find really useful. I think would be great as well to do with the kids.
Excellent. Yeah.
Some of those, exercises and things which we do anyway. But for sure, I know there's, like you say, there's lots of people that have got sort of high anxiety at the moment. So it'd be good to sort of, feedback to them as well.
Yeah, I think the real key things are normalise it, like we're all doing it. So it's not just one person. And then literally like breathing. Name it and then breathe into it and just say, come on, we just got to get ourselves back online. Let's breathe deeply till we feel right. So what age kids are you working with at the moment?
I have grade 1, but obviously once we go back, just having heard the announcement today, the chances are we might have sort of different grades in each group, but we'll wait and see how that works out. But I enjoyed the part you were saying about how you take on other people's emotions, or you can feel them, and I'm very much one of those people that likes getting close to other people, and I think that's what my profession is about as well. So it is quite difficult to sort of have that distance, and I find when I've been out on my exercise walks, people, you get those two sorts, the ones that are, hi, how are you, and the others that think they can't even speak to you. So it's and you can feel their energy, you can feel their sort of fear and their worry, and I try to sort of put a smile in my day by doing that as well, just to sort of make a bit of a connection with other human beings, really.
I feel for the dogs, they're not getting the pats. You see the dogs and it's like, pat me when you go for a walk. You go, I'm really sorry, I can't pat you.
So it's tricky times, but I think there's lots of positives we can take from it too. And for sure, I think there was something else you were saying about benefits and drawbacks, and I think that's a good way of looking at it as well, because at the moment it's all very much about drawbacks, and I think there's always two sides to it, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the real distinction is we're not trying to make a bad thing good. We're
No.
looking at what are the benefits, like that this is helping. So if we take like the intention of the universe, or the agenda of the universe is growth and transformation, this is like a huge wake up for us, isn't it? So we're all having to transform. People are becoming really resourceful and creative, and people are connecting in so many different ways. So there's a whole lot of development and transformation and growth that's happening during this period as well. It just depends where you're sitting, you know, it's how you're actually responding to it. Yeah. And the other comment I make about what you said a little earlier is about taking on other people's feelings. The thing that I learned that I think is really valuable is that empathy actually doesn't help the other person. Like I think we've been trained to think we should all be empathetic, but if we go into their feeling and feel like they feel, we're taking our ability away to help them.
Yeah.
Because we need to loan them our prefrontal cortex or our executive center so that we can help them get themselves out of that state. So we can't get them out of the state, but by naming it and then being with them and then breathing and letting that energy drop, it brings their prefrontal cortex back online. But if we all go into crying together, that doesn't actually help us get out of it, except that eventually we cry enough and we get sick of crying and we come out the other end. So it's just a tweak on how to help people who are upset. It's not necessarily being upset. It's not necessarily being as upset as they are. It's actually going to be of the most value. It's actually letting them know you feel them.
I think it's that acknowledgement, absolutely. Like you said, you know, you can say, you know, that's a lot, or that's hard, or that's heavy, but you're acknowledging it, but then you're trying to sort of pull them out of that state, which
just be with it and let it drop out. That's how I see it. Like the waves flatten if you just be with it. That kind of makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because no one likes to be told what to do. So if you tell someone, oh, I can see you're upset, I can see you're angry, they feel like you're telling them what to do. You're telling them how to feel. So that's why I use those abstract words, like it feels like a lot. So it's just different. You're feeling them, but you're not telling them how to feel. Yeah.
And it's just, like I say, it's acknowledging it. So you're not undermining their feelings. You're just acknowledging it, but obviously trying to sort of switch what they're doing.
Yeah, just helping them equilibrate it and bring it back into a regulated frequency that feels more cohesive and more under control. It's like more together rather than apart. Yep. Cool.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for coming on and for your input. I'm going to, we're hopeful we've recorded this. Okay. So I'm hoping to get it up on YouTube. So if you want to share it with the other teachers, that'd be great for them to.
Okay, excellent. No, that's really good. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah, cool, thank you. Carly and I'll be working on that tomorrow, won't we, Carly? Working out how to make it work.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you again for coming on.
Okay, thank you.
Marilla, any comments or questions? You're good too. And Boo, any from you? Okay, alrighty. Just check with Boo, anything? I think she's right. They've already said thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for being part of our pilot program, you pioneers. Thank you for your help.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Thank you.